Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Umlink Energy Speaks Back, powered by Hark. My name is Paul Webb. I'm the founder of B2B Energy, and I'm your host. And weekly, I present to you experts from around the world. Welcome to episode 82. My special guest today helps companies identify, develop and implement financial and operational solutions. Our purpose, as always, is to provide a good understanding of energy management knowledge from around the world, which is available today for us to deliver savings that impact on our planet. On our journey of knowledge sharing, we would like to thank our sponsors, and they are Smart Cool for their AC initiatives, Cinefex for their insulation coating, Umlink, who are taking the confusion out of energy management, Hark Systems, renowned for their energy software, Clean Energy Revolution for their knowledge and networking throughout LinkedIn and social media, B2B Energy for their 11-week energy program and managing organizations' third largest expense, Alexis Energy for their power management, Led by Vision for their LED and controls, Symewatts for their electronics and EV transition, Carbon Black Global for their waste to energy initiatives. And lastly, our certificate partners, Esther Energy. Our special guest today is an expert in his industry of energy management. So without any further ado, I give you Daniel Cohen. Good afternoon, Daniel. How are you today?
I'm well, thanks. And you?
Yes, very well. We are in the UK and heading into nighttime here. So what's the time zones where you on? Whereabouts are you today?
It's just past lunch, 1:30 in the afternoon, and I did not have enough. So if you hear some noises, it's just my stomach.
Good start. At least it's a sensible time. Normally, I'm having to get up silly hours, and you guys are normally either late at night or really early in the morning. So it's thank you for booking a sensible time today. So what we always like to chat about the weather, and you alluded to earlier that you've got quite a stormy day in Boston.
It's actually quite nice. We had a bit of a dip in temperatures. It was about 0 Fahrenheit the last 2 days, and it's now quickly heating up to 60 degrees Fahrenheit tomorrow. But I think all the warm weather is being brought in by some heavy wind that just kicked up.
Right.
I think it's expected through the night.
And I've just heard on the news tonight, we're expecting, so that could be a tailwind heading towards this way because we've got heavy winds coming and storms coming to the UK on top of our grey and windy weather and low temperatures. So I don't mind bad weather as long as we've got some high temperatures, but we haven't got high temperatures at the moment. Yeah. And you've got to worry, really. I like to think that this has all got to be connected to these, a step change from 0 to 60. What's that about? Why is that happening so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I've got my hunches. I think most people have their hunches in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. I can do with the 60, but the big swings are not so nice.
Yeah, exactly. So Daniel, we have met through a close colleague, Bill Soul. He's introduced us, and we've been catching up today about our backgrounds, and we've been talking about our expertise in this industry. So for the benefit of our audience today, can you give us some background and your origin story?
Yeah, I guess I'll dial it all the way back to when I was just a youth, and my father harping on me to constantly shut the lights off. He was a corrugated packaging salesman for I guess going on 40 years now or so, and he's really been in kind of the sustainability space since he's been in that industry in terms of making sure that we're using as much recycled product as we can. making sure that we are recycling as much as possible. So yeah, it's been the sustainability aspect of this business has kind of been in my blood as long as I can remember.
It's quite funny. I've been speaking to quite a few Americans recently, and that story resonates across many, many generations and countries. I I'm the same. I'm 58 years of age, and my dad used to sort of shout at me, "This is like Blackpool Illuminations." I don't know whether you know Blackpool Illuminations, but it's just a place where they have loads of lights at night, and every light's on. So my dad will be at home saying all these lights are on in the house, basically, and the lights will be on in my bedroom, but I'll be downstairs, and all the lights are on in different rooms. So it's funny that story is across the world, I think, for me.
There's one saying that comes to mind, which I'm sure also goes across borders, but it's put a sweater on.
Yes. In fact, I was with a client today and we was having the same conversation where the organization were complaining they were too hot in areas and too cold in other areas. And they said, well, we've got company fleeces. Why aren't you wearing a fleece? Or why don't you take your fleece off? It's that thing. It's crazy, but very true. Very true. So your background now, what you into currently?
Yeah, good question. So I went to uni, graduated in 2004, and I had a marketing degree. And kind of going back to my father, he was always pressing on me to join the sales force. And I think like most, no, I don't know if it's most, but like quite a few young individuals, you don't want to do what your father did beforehand, at least in this age of enlightenment that we're in.
Yeah.
So I did the opposite. I moved to New York City, wanted to get into advertising, and ended up at Christie's auction house. I was there for a year in the finance department, moved from there to a diamond wholesale manufacturer. Was there got stuck in there for quite a few years through the recession that we had in 08 and 09 in the States, globally, I guess. And anyways, I met my wife, had 2 kids, moved back to Boston and Boston area and took a job through a college friend of mine, selling into the lighting space. Really was focused in maintenance. I used to tell everybody that my salary was paid by maintenance and my bonus was paid by the LED projects. And that's kind of landed me now where I'm at today here at Sona.
What year was that? You was in the started there?
I joined the last place in 2013, midway through the year, June, and then I left there in 19, and then started Sona about a week after I got let go.
Right. So this is in like the mid 20s where LED was becoming quite big, wasn't it? Because when we started, I think I started seeing my first LEDs around about 2005 in the UK being introduced to us. But what we was finding then, and I don't know whether you can experience this as well, but LEDs were very, very expensive, but the quality of them was very, very low. And if you wanted an LED or a batch of them, you had to pay up front because they had to be manufactured and brought in from possibly China. So we had this issue with the quality and the cost. But now, obviously, many years later, we find in the cost and the quality have both leveled out. And it's quite interesting. We're now heading into the phase 2 of the LED, where we've seen the first phase been installed and now they're coming through their life cycle, which is quite amazing, really. So with that side of it, what manufacturers do you sort of bring in, or do your company manufacture the LEDs as well?
No, I mean, so Sona's go-to-market is, really to try and be, energy experts for our, large CNI type customers. So where we I and my partner, when we started, we were able to and are able to execute on lighting projects. But I mean, really, we would like to be able to assist our customers with, any I'll say energy need, but really clean energy is where we'd like to focus. And I know microgrids tend to tie in some dirty, but our focus is anything that will ultimately help our customers, greenhouse gas emissions, and more importantly for them, I think their bottom line.
Yeah. So it's quite a holistic approach, really, where you're looking at all their energy needs, not just focusing on the lighting. But lighting does play a big part of it.
It does. We kind of view it now as almost a gateway drug. It's there's so many lighting puns, but it's the most visible upgrade you can do. People may notice an HVAC efficiency project, because the temperature in some spaces may change, but the end use tenant and customer really is not going to see it and feel it immediately like they will with LED.
So if we took LED as their entry level, what are the benefits of installing LED that you approach your customer with?
That's a great question. We just went through this with Bill Soul, who introduced us last week. There are a ton of benefits. Reduced maintenance schedule is a big thing in the retail space that we're at. The CapEx planning that you can now do. You mentioned we're now in the second iteration, and we're starting to see that. I've been seeing that, probably for about 3 or 4 years now. Retrofitting. We're actually looking at one of the first fully. It was a new construction build. It was one of the first. I think it was the second full LED grocery store in the country, and we're now looking at retrofitting it in its entirety. They've done some minor adjustments, so we'll see if we can leave those be. But yeah, it's cost, and cost. I think are the three major drivers.
Well, so in the UK, we do allude to it regarding the air conditioning savings and the cooling savings. It's quite hard to justify and to calculate that. We sometimes put a round figure on that as a percentage, but do you go down to that level?
We typically will not. A big part of our focus has been, as I mentioned, the retail big box type environment, and they have dedicated energy groups. So as lighting has become much more commoditized, they're kind of discounting. An LED project from 2, 3, 4 different vendors is likely going to have close to the same HVAC savings tied to it. So no, typically not, but it can make a difference in a cold storage facility. Anywhere where you're trying to maintain a temperature, it can certainly add to the payback.
And then the focus has got to be on the products they're selling, isn't it? Because you said that you get a real benefit regarding the look and feel of these lights. You're going to get the biggest impact. Do these grocery organizations focus on how it makes their products look regarding the color rendering?
General sales lighting, less so than a more focused, be it a case light or a track light. But yeah, it can, and it can also not be a focus of theirs. A saying that I have grown to both love and hate. It depends on the application, right?
Isn't that a politician's answer to it? Yes.
Yes. I mean, it depends on who you're talking to, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about the LED, for instance. So what are the challenges an organization is going to have by converting from a normal lighting system or an older LED to upgrading to a later version of LED? Are there challenges that he's likely to expect?
Challenges. I think the major challenges is just on what was done before. If an older fixture was retrofit, or if a new fixture was installed, you know, if you can replace only the components, that poses an issue from a design standpoint, where you need to source the right fitting parts and pieces.
Yeah.
But I think most stuff is smaller now than it was 10, 15 years ago anyway. So, no, I think the biggest benefit is just the biggest difficulty is to try and understand, what the end goal of the customer is, past just doing, like, it's great, we can do the lighting, but can we integrate some advanced controls? Can we, I'm sure you've seen it in the UK. It's not a US design phenomenon, but the amount of times that we've seen lights positioned directly above, a high steel aisle in a warehouse, we can remove those. They don't need to be there, or reposition them. So, just working through, getting kind of the final design, I think is really just the most difficult piece of implementation.
And going forward, we've got the LED. I've seen LEDs evolve regarding the lenses and the wattages of them, and the styles, obviously, and the flexibility of them being, as you say, changing the component, which we would change the lamp rather than the whole complete fitting. I've seen that evolving. And now for me, the next step, you mentioned it just now, is the control side of it, is being able to control that individual light to a time, to whether people are in the area regarding PIR or whatever the form of microwave, or whatever the form of sensing is. I'm talking about where I think so LEDs now is going into control and emergency lighting. So for me, the biggest challenge that I used to have was, we can change all these lights, but we can't change this particular light because it's a emergency light, and we don't have emergency light fittings in that style of lighting. So what would normally happen is we change all the lights except for all the emergency lighting would stay the same, which defeats the object for look and feel, because you could be looking at nice, cool white lighting with warm white lighting on all the emergencies. So I'm seeing that advancing quite quickly now. Where do you think LED industry is going? What do you think's next? Do you think there's more steps for us to come?
Yeah, I mean, I think just that advanced control, getting the customer to understand that there's more advanced control. I think that data is king in any organization, and you can't do anything unless you've got data. So I think tying in the controls to the lights will provide organizations with, hopefully, some real data on how they can better tweak their system to work for the space, the people within it. What's past it, I don't know what's past it. At Light Fair a few years ago, there were EV companies promoting. So I can't speak to what's 10 years from now in the lighting field, because I think we're kind of at it seems to me that we're at a place of kind of saturation, where the price has more or less leveled out. The efficiencies are there's always space for more efficiency, but does it pay off to continue going down that path? So I think where we'll be focused in the next 3 to or I guess from today and the next 10 years is just the continuation of market saturation. And I think a lot of the, everybody loves to use the low hanging fruit term as well, but the customers that we all want to go after have been gone after already. They've already adopted most of them. So we're looking at, what we talked about a few minutes ago in terms of retrofitting or revisiting the space and upgrading LED to LED, where there are efficiencies and may be some small rebates. But how the U.S. is, how the U.S. is as a country in terms of energy cost, the coasts that, the Northeast and the West Coast have, I think, for the most part, reached a pretty decent market saturation. Again, for those customers that everybody wants to go after, your big brands. And I think the next 5-10 years or so will be focused on the kind of the middle of the country, where cost of energy has been historically cheap, and in the South. And I think whether it's through utility incentives or the future cost of energy, I think they'll be incentivized to, finally adopt if they haven't already. So I think that's where the lighting field will be, at least here in the States, in the next few years.
Yeah. So in the States, you keep alluding to rebates and incentives from the government. Do the government incentivize organizations to deploy LEDs?
I won't speak definitively because I don't know. I mean, there are just so many programs out there.
Yeah. And different states will probably do different things. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the incentives here are really utility driven. So it depends on who your delivery charge is coming from.
Right.
So where I am, I live in National Grid territory, which is a UK company.
Right.
And the rebates will come for them if I do a project here.
Right. Yeah.
And part of the fund that we pay into.
Right. So yeah, I'm familiar with the US market regarding all the different states have different, you just mentioned the National Grid, which, the National Grid in the UK sold all its grid overseas to Europe and then started buying up some US grids. So I see the move from A to B. Do you ever, so in the retail world, so I've done some work with Walmart, and their heavily focus on, and that's why I alluded to that question regarding the benefits of their products and things, because Walmart really focused on making their products look appealing to people to purchase. And they had plasma lighting. So they once put plasma lighting on one side of the shop compared to normal conventional lighting on the other side. And they found people were buying more from that side because people were feeling good underneath the plasma lighting, etc. So do you come across that at all? Or is that just something that was being experimented with?
Yeah, it can help, doing that type of A/B testing can help a customer really understand what they want. Again, going back to what do they want. Exactly. That's always the hardest part. But the diamond place, the owner Sean Cohen would always come in and say, Lance, I want to see this, and this, and we'd pull the reports for this, and this, and he'd come back and he'd say, this isn't what I want. Why don't you pull this report and that report? And we both, Lance and I, would, what the hell do you want to see? What do you want to see? So we kind of come to that, and you can't do that with an end user in terms of throwing a fit. But that's the hardest part, is understanding what the end goal is. And a lot of times, even the energy engineers at some of these organizations, they go through the same thing. We'd like to do this, but then you need to figure out what this actually is. I was with the organization, with my last organization, and we had done some color temp testing for a discount retailer that was one of our bigger customers. And that was interesting. You know, I have a hard time discerning, you know, a Signify 3500, you know, 12-watt lamp against a Philips one, but you know, men see less color than women, anyways, on the spectrum. So, I guess we really shouldn't be selling lighting.
That's interesting. I never heard that before, actually.
Yeah, my old boss, my friend JC Everett, he schlepped me I to a I'm blanking. It was a Philips, maybe a Colortronics possibly training session, and I was so out of my league. It was really, you know, geared towards you know, the technical side of color and architecture. But in that presentation, I you know, I learned quite a bit. Birds apparently can see like 30,000 different colors, and you know, they're colors that we humans can't see. I you know, I can't comprehend that in my brain, but I'll believe it. And again, I think I'm pretty sure that that in that same training they had said that women see slightly more color than men do.
Interesting point.
Yeah.
So you sit down with an organization, and we're talking about the entry level of being your lighting side. What next, or when you're looking at these properties, what you're focusing on?
Anything and everything that is clean tech and efficient is really where we see the value prop in what we're bringing to the table. And you know, when we started Sona, you know, my partner and I, we can do lighting projects, but we can't, you know, we're salespeople. We don't know, you know, we don't know the technical speak, let alone how to implement a project, how to design a project. So that's been our focus in growing Sona. You know, we started down the path with you know, with bringing on more sales individuals, and then it turned out we needed a company to have him sell outside of just the two other sales guys. So that's where we've been focused really the last few years, or last year in growing us. And since we've, you know, really kind of bolstered the team, we have open opportunities in solar. We're testing some HVAC efficiencies that we're really excited about. Hopefully have some really good news when this podcast gets released in terms of a white paper case study for HVAC efficiency. So I'll key in when that comes through. Solar, you know, microgrid. We'd love for everything to be clean. I know there's some dirty tied to microgrids, but we've got some solar opportunities out there. We're in discussion with some microgrid opportunities. We're down the EV path, HVAC. What am I missing? I guess wind. We're not touching wind right now.
Right. Is there much need for wind power in America?
Today,
yes. Well, no, you do know you can have too much wind. That's the problem.
I did not know that.
Yeah, the wind has a window of how much, because otherwise it would go too fast and it would burn the motor out and the bearings out. So you have to be careful. That's why sometimes you could be driving along a road and there'd be loads of windmills and not all of them would be running because it may be too windy in that day. So it's either not windy enough or too windy. But you know, you get these spiral ones. They're very beneficial because their wind window, excuse the pun if that is a pun, it's a lot higher, a lot wider.
Those are, I think you're going to see those more often on the corner of a building, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You don't get so much vibration with them neither. So what do you see? What's the future for your organization? What's your plans?
I see it's a drastically changing infrastructure or potential infrastructure as we move forward. You know, the EV adoption is, you know, I think about to reach real liftoff standpoint. a lot of people are concerned, or I guess question the adoption rate and what's going to happen in terms of, will the grid have enough capacity? I think that the collective we are in a pretty good position from that standpoint. I think the chip shortage and the lack of cars getting out on the road that manufacturers are able to turning out, and I don't say the lack of options, but I will say the lack of options of what cars are available for sale. I think we're kind of have the opportunity to get the EV infrastructure out ahead of the car adoption piece. So that's going to be a major focus of us. Once the adoption of cars does continue and grow, I see renewables, really solar on top of C&I type spaces, be it retail or not, as another big focus of us and a focus of the grids. And efficiencies. And I think I listened to your last podcast. I think we're going to need the last podcast that was published. I don't recall who the gentleman was, but I think they said we need to stop doing things. We need to stop using energy in certain aspects. And I'm right in line with that.
Yeah, totally. So Daniel, it comes this time, and if you sound like you've listened to some of my podcasts, which is really good. It's come to this time where I'm really going to put you on the spot now, and I'm going to ask you my famous question, which is there anything today that you can give back to the industry as a takeaway?
I'd say, leave your comfort zone and put a sweater on, and tell everyone else to put a sweater on, and then go fix the HVAC inefficiency, whether that's replacing your windows or replacing the motor or sealing your ducts or whatever it is. But just get out there and do it.
Yeah. Let's not sit. And for me, let's not sit back and let people around us do it. We've all got to make a difference. It's got to be all of us, not just one person. I sometimes, when I look back at my career, so I've been in the energy industry for 42 years. And when I look back at, say, 2005, someone turned around and said to me, "Oh, you're just a tree hugger." And I thought, that's a really interesting concept. All I've said is, do you think we should turn the light off in an area as we've walked out? So it was funny, his perceptions of me. So who's wrong? His perceptions of me, of what I'm trying to achieve. That one light doesn't cost a lot in the scale of the whole global problem. But if everyone turned a light off today, I'd like to be I'm a key person of influence in my field, I think, but I'd like to be able to put a post out and say, everyone at 8:00 tonight, turn a light off wherever you are in the world. And what impact would that have? We spoke about this offline as well, didn't we? Where I said about if everyone was to become a vegetarian for one day a week, think of the difference that would make.
Yeah.
Don't live in your comfort zone. And that's what it is. You're living in your comfort zone.
The last org that I was a part of was it was very insular. And what I really liked about the company that I was interviewing with and didn't ultimately go work for, was really a feeling of camaraderie, and we're not alone in this. And what I've really appreciated since starting Sona is the collaboration between so many entities. Our competitors are competitors in certain bid situations, but they're also our partners and subcontractors and and friends ultimately. And that's I think I'd like to speak for the world. I know that I shouldn't, but I'd like to think that we're getting closer to that point of more collaboration than less. So hopefully that continues.
I've written some articles on that same subject, and I've always said this. I don't have competitors. I have opportunities to work with people, and you've not the nail on the head is, you can compete with these people in tender situations, but you would learn if you lose that tender why you lost it, and then have a conversation with that company to find out what they did that you didn't do. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel, look, I really appreciate your time. You're going to go and enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to start winding down, put me slippers on and get me pipe out for the rest of the evening. Daniel, you and your family be safe in these times, yeah?
Thanks, Paul. You as well. Thanks for the time.